Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectives, and welcome to episode 409 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre.
This is the AI voice of Mark Leslie Lefebvre, generated using 11 Labs. I just wanted to correct the verbal typo Mark just made. This is, in fact, episode 410 of the Stark Reflections podcast. Okay, I'm done. Now back to the real and human Mark.
In today's episode, I have a conversation with Robert J. Sawyer and Kevin J. Anderson. I guess I should call myself Mark J. Lefebvre instead of Mark Leslie Lefebvre. But I am here in sort of a Reflections on the Road style interview and or podcast or episode, I should say. I'm here in Hollywood, in Los Angeles. Rob and Kevin and I are three of the many judges who are here for Writers of the Future. It's a phenomenal week in Hollywood, celebrating the accomplishment of the writer and illustrator winners who have been flown from all over the world to be mentored by a whole bunch of amazing authors and illustrators from the business. It is a fantastic week. We are privileged and honored that we get to work with these winners. And on Thursday, I guess as this episode's going to be releasing late on Thursday, I'll be at the gala ceremony, black tie event, celebrating the winners. But on Tuesday, because we had the morning off, Kevin and Rob and I took about a half-hour walk over to one of the locations of Lucifers Pizza, which was I saw it recommended by Nikki Guerlain, who is a patron coffee buddy of the show, and I saw on Facebook that Nikki had been in LA, I guess a month or so ago, and highly recommended this pizza. And Nikki, I have to say, yes, we agreed, and Kevin was raving about the pizza on the way home, so I said I would make sure to let you know. Fantastic pizza at Lucifers, but I thought it would be fun. And this is in honor of Mitch Joel, who's sort of a Canadian digital marketing guru, Canadian-American, but Mitch is in like Montreal and New York. And his longtime podcast, 6 Pixels of Separation, that I've long been a fan of, in certain episodes, we just sit in a cafe, in Montreal somewhere with some friends, and they would talk digital marketing. And I thought, okay, well, why don't I just turn on the recorder while we sit and wait for our pizza, have a little bit of a conversation, record that, and then I can get an episode out the door. So anyways, I am not going to do any of the other introductory stuff. No ad read from a sponsor, no comments from recent episodes. I'm back home next week where I'll have better recording devices. And it was noisy. The staff were kind enough to turn the music off while we did the recording. But there was still a fan there, and I did as much noise reduction as possible. But I think it's a fun conversation, roughly 20 minutes, and I think you're going to enjoy it. And again, it's always a fantastic time here, hanging out with so many amazing folks, and of course to get caught up with Kevin and Rob at the same time. So enjoy this episode. There will be no post-chat reflection. So without further ado, I'm going to play the bumper, run the interview, and I hope you enjoy it.
I'm Robert J. Sawyer, Toronto, Canada. I'm here with Mark and Kevin.
Kevin J. Anderson, and I'm here with Rob and Mark.
And I'm Mark Leslie Lefebvre, and I'm here with Rob and Kevin. This is amazing. So we're at Lucifers Pizza, just on off West Sunset Boulevard.
Heard it's hell of a good pizza, or
yeah,
the joke makes itself. So.
That's cool. And so we're waiting for the pizza here, and we're at Writers of the Future. And one of the things I love about this, apart from getting to mentor some students, and you guys were both amazing mentors to me over the years and continue to be. What's the like, what's the reasoning, like, why you invest so much time and energy in coming out to Hollywood every year?
Robert A. Heinlein said, you can never pay back the people who helped you, but you've got an obligation to pay forward. You just mentioned I've helped you, Kevin's helped you. For me, there were some writers in Toronto. Terrence M. Green, who's still with us, Andrew Weiner, who's passed away, who took me under their wing. And they were selling to Asimov's and FNSF, and they gave me all kinds of help, and there was nothing I could ever do to help them. But that Heinleinian obligation to pay it forward is absolutely the reason I do this. I would not be where I am today if somebody didn't give me a leg up. I got to pay it back or pay it forward.
Okay.
And I had the same thing. I had these amazing mentors when I was, you know what, our pizza just showed up.
Oh,
so
thank you
I'm
so
going
much.
to pause for just a second.
Keep talking.
And there's another, but I had these amazing mentors. Like when I was just starting out, like Dean Koontz was one of my mentors.
Yeah.
And I was corresponding with him. He'd give me advice on this, and I would have him look at my contracts, and he would do. So he explained to me the difference between writing a bestseller and writing a good list book. And it's like, I'd never even thought of that stuff before. And I had Terry Brooks was one of my mentors, and Joe Lansdale was one of the first people that read my stuff. And I just kept thinking, this is amazing that these gods of Olympus are helping me. And in fact, one time I was having dinner with Dean Koontz, and I kind of reflected. I said, you spent so much time helping me. Like, why? What did you see in me? Why did you pick me? And he said, I tried to help a lot of people, but you were the only one who listened.
100%.
Like that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
It's going to be super
Could I get
hot.
maybe some cutlery?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be right back.
Oh, yeah, it is
Some
super hot.
Parmesan and everything. So.
Oh, and
All
maybe
right.
some Parmesan?
Oh, yeah. Parmesan and red flakes are going to be up in those little bowls on the counters next to
Well,
extract.
I'll
All right.
get those while Rob answers
Yeah.
another question.
Yeah, of
because-
course.
So you've been a judge for Writers Future for...
This, I believe, is my 21st year of coming here and 20th year being a judge. The first year I was an observer.
okay.
And Kevin's been at it a lot longer. So I've been here for half the lifetime of the contest now.
Wow.
And besides wanting to, of course, pay forward, when John Goodwin asked me if I wanted to be involved with this, all I had to do was look at the list of judges, the founding judges like Robert Silverberg and Theodore Sturgeon, and the judges who've been here, you know, my buddies.
Was I longer than you?
Yo, much longer. Kevin and
Here,
Kevin.
you said
here.
21 years, or 20 years?
21 years that I've been coming here. But Dean Wesley Smith, Christine Catherine Rush, some of my cohort were here, but also were my idols. Larry Nevin, Gregory Benford, Robert Silverberg, Anne McCaffrey, Theodore Sturgeon, right? So it was a no-brainer to get to be part of this.
Right.
But the real number one reason is because we, honest to God, think that it helps young writers. And Kevin was alluding to this. The industry is wide open. There are a lot of industries where they try to haze you and keep you out of it. You know, a union job, or I mean, it can't work here.
Or competition.
Competition, yes. The stupidest writers in this field think that other writers are their competition
Right.
instead of their colleagues, right?
Okay.
I write my books, Kevin writes his, you write yours, Mark. We're not in competition at all.
Because I read books too.
That's right, exactly.
But I do want to add a really important note. Lucifers Pizza is really good pizza. We're eating it like hot right out of the oven right
Yeah,
now.
this is,
It's very good.
mhm.
Highly recommended. So,
Very good and gooey.
so thank you, Nikki, for recommending that pizza to. Nikki is a regular listener to the podcast as well. So,
Well, and so one of the things for me, the Writers Future Contest started in 1985, I think,
Mhm.
84, 85. And I was a new writer then. I don't think I'd had my first professional even short story publication. And this was this new contest that was like, wow, I'm not in competition with like the big name writers who always get chosen over this me nobody, but it's all unknown. And I thought, well, I can do this. So I submitted the very first year, and I kept submitting, and I got a bunch of like honorable mentions and things.
Me too. We neither of us have ever won this contest. Some of our judges have, but Dean Wesley Smith is an example. But we never won. But Kevin and I both benefited from this contest way before we were associated with the contest.
yeah.
Just because open door, you're being judged by the most famous writers in the field, and no entry fee. One of the things that we reiterate to everybody here is
And they don't
scams
steal your
everywhere.
rights.
And they
a lot
don't
of
steal the
contests
rights.
will take your rights if you submit to them.
Although I have to say, parenthetically, for the podcast, for the record, I was pissed off this year. I was the one who was asked to do a nonfiction piece, which you get asked every once in a while to do.
Yeah.
And they changed their contract on that, all rights. And I said no. And finally, I
All
actually...
for the nonfiction bits.
They said, no, the last one I did, you had the same deal as everybody. I said, no. And finally, I said, this is a great article I wrote. I'm going to sell it to Writer's Digest because they don't want all rights. And they capitulated. But I was astonished that they were wanting all rights to a nonfiction piece.
Well,
anyways,
did
it
they
was
run
resolved.
just do with a non-exclusive or something?
No, nothing.
Okay.
They 100% work made for hire.
Okay.
And I said, I do not do work made for hire. I was astonished. But in general, yes, in terms of submitting your fiction to Writers of the Future, it's one of the most author-friendly contracts around.
Well, and the other thing, it's not just a contest that you don't just win the prize and stuff, but you also get to come to this awesome workshop, which we are at right now and instructing at it. And one of the, sure, I would love to get $1,000 or whatever for the prize money, but the thing that really drove me was I wanted to go to this workshop that was taught by Jim Powers and Orson Scott Card and Jack Williamson and
Aegis Budget, yeah.
And I never got to go because I never won. But then they asked me to be a teacher. I went, good, I get to go to a workshop now because I'm teaching it.
Yeah, I've entered the contest a few times, never made it in, and then finally got invited to be a judge.
Well, you bring a terrific perspective because it is great that all of these old fart judges use that in the most affectionate way. But, when people ask me, how do you break in? I say, I don't know. Because I did it. My first novel was 1990. My first short story was 1980. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be asking me that. But there is a little bit of inertia in this contest. And bringing somebody in like you, who is totally invested in and expert on indie publishing, was exactly what this contest needed to keep it relevant here in 2025.
I've got to correct you factually there, Rob, because your Golden Fleece was not 1990 because my Resurrection Inc. was 1988 and you published before I did.
That's not true.
Or maybe you sold the contract first.
Golden Fleece, my first novel was 1990, December 1990. My cover story.
Your cover story and Amazing Story
was a novelette version of Golden Fleece, and that was August or September 1988. So you beat me into print.
So Rob and I were baby writers together at the same time.
Yeah, and we're almost exactly the same age. We got in the field around the same time.
And so let's talk about, so that was like was it Asimov's or Analog?
Amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Both of us, we were in the same issue, approached the same literary agent, based on the stories in that issue. And yours was a collaboration with Doug.
We both wrote novels based on that story.
That's right.
Really? Is that so Resurrection Inc. as well as...
No. Lifeline, my first book with Doug Beeson, was from the story and Amazing Stories, and his was Golden Fleece in the same issue.
Oh, that's amazing.
And at the time,
it had a Bob Eggleton cover, who was also a judge in the Illustrators.
And it was the cover was for my story. Mm-hmm. I own the art. I bought it from Bob in 1988 when I could afford to buy a Bob Eggleton. But yeah, he's one of our...
Bob was a beginning illustrator.
He was just starting. He's born the same year as me, 1960. Okay. He was just getting started. But at the time, Locus, the trade journal of the science fiction fantasy field, had an Agent's Corner column by Richard Curtis, and Richard was also the official agent for the Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America. And so everybody in the field at that time wanted Richard as their agent. And you got Richard, I got Richard, Chris Russ, Dean Wilson, everybody. And one thing or another, none of us are represented by Richard anymore, although he still has some clients.
Graduated.
Yeah, but I'm still, Richard is now in his late 70s or 80s. I know he just did a deal for Paul DeFilippo, and he still does Pamela Sargent and a few writers. But yeah, we had an entree into this. But that was, at that time, how do you find an agent? The only one who we even had heard of was Richard Curtis, because he had this column. You couldn't go to the internet and search literary agents. And you could get Writer's Market and look up. But half of them are scam, fee-charging, people. So a whole new world now. I have no sympathy for a writer who signs a stupid contract Because why didn't you just Google what makes a good contract? SFWA is a model contract. Now that everybody gets it. Writers Union of Canada has a free contract evaluation service. Right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's one of the benefits of being a member. Okay. Well, I mean, I can understand the desire and the passion for writers to have an official contract with an official publisher. I mean, I even know, six-figure indie authors who still want that.
They want that.
They
you
want
know how
that,
we
yeah.
went and got it, right?
Yeah.
They still that's their holy grail to be a real quote unquote
Yeah. Somebody
and
else is
granted,
going to.
even the most successful indie authors never just walk into a Barnes and Noble and see a big pyramid display of their books, and that's what every author really dreams of. But to make more money if you do it, well, you can make more money if you do it the other way.
Right.
I mean, we've been lucky. We're all hybrid now to one degree or another. We've been lucky that we get to walk into a bookstore and see our books. We've done autographings at traditional bookstores. We've been at traditional writers' festivals, writers' conferences. But we also make a lot of money because we're savvy business people.
Well, you make a lot of money. Some of us are still.
Oh, come
having
on,
other
dude.
people that-
You have tourists on your house. You live in a castle.
Yeah,
I have a
bet.
penthouse.
I do have indoor plumbing. Though,
Yeah.
It's always a burden. So we're in Hollywood,
True.
and both of you have experience with the snail pace. How do you describe the way?
Well, they
that-
call it development hell, which just means
Okay.
it's in development forever.
Well, and in Hollywood, it's like boundless enthusiasm followed by endless silence.
Yeah.
So, I had a great breakfast this morning with my manager and my film attorney, and all kinds of great news and optimism. And I've got a lot of stuff going. It all sounds pretty good, but at the end of the day, I walked away and went, well, I still don't have a signed contract, and I still haven't been paid anything, and there's been lots and lots of meetings. See, the thing with publishing, especially indie publishing, I can get my book out tomorrow if I want to. And if I write a book, I can damn well get that book out to an audience. And I have an audience because I've built it over 20 years. With Hollywood, it is talk and talk and talk for years.
Right.
And you may never see anything from it. But the 1 in 100 times that it happens pays a whole lot more than books do. So everybody chases those fairy lights. I just tell people, don't believe anything they say.
Yeah.
And don't. We both know a writer who's the same age as us. He started at the same time as us. And this was maybe back in the 90s. Had a short story that won the Nebula Award or something, and somebody wanted to do a film option. And this writer believed the film option, and so he quit his job and basically waited and waited, and he mortgaged his house, he cashed in everything, and banked everything on this film being made, and it never got made.
Oh.
And I believe he went bankrupt, and he's kind of returning now after 20 years. But this was and Rob and I were both friends with his, and we just said, don't do that. Don't believe him. Don't until the money in Hollywood. They say don't count anything until the contract is signed, the check is in your hand, and it clears the bank.
All three of those levels, right? Not just.
And I imagine it's the same for you, Kevin. I just find it fun playing the Hollywood game.
Okay.
And I know I've won it. I had a TV series on ABC. Lose it far, far more often than I win it. But that's fine. I happen to enjoy it. But I know other writers, like my friend Robert Charles Wilson, who just can't do a pitch, can't take a meeting, shy. If somebody comes to him, as Leonard Nimoy did once upon a time, he got a phone call one day. Hello, is that Robert Charles Wilson? Yes, this is Leonard Nimoy. And Leonard Nimoy wanted to option something, and then nothing ever came of it. But completely not playing the game. Whereas Kevin and I both wanted that brass ring, went after it, but also recognized that realistically we've been extraordinarily lucky.
Well, for me, it's in the background. I mean, yes, I play the game, but I never, at the beginning of the year, my wife and I do this whole list of, okay, these are the payments coming in this year from delivering this book or this book being published. And at the bottom we go, and these are all the promises from Hollywood that we're going to make $1 million a year and all this stuff. And that's always like, if it happens, it happens. And it never happens.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So we don't bank our lives on this movie money coming in, because it really is. One time, I had something awesome, and they wanted to have a weekly strategy mission call with me. So I'm like, for an hour or more every week, and they were just bullshitting. I mean, they were talking about me, and I kept going like, what are we accomplishing with this? This is an hour I'm losing every week that I could be writing something. And finally, I really pinned them down, and it turned out that the producer was just a fan of mine, and he got off on talking with J. Anderson every week. And I just went, well, I don't have time for this. And then that option lapsed, and nothing ever came.
And that happens a lot, right? Where the option, like, for every 100 options a film is made, or 1,000? Like, what are the stats?
You know, these are pull them out of your butt numbers, but I say for every 1,000 books, one gets optioned. Okay. For every 1,000 options, one actually gets made. So that, you know, because I say to people, okay, think every book gets optioned. How many Arthur C. Clarke films have there been? Well, there was 2001 and 2010, and eventually a miniseries of Childhood's End. How many Heinlein? Well, there was Starship Trooper. How many Asimov? Well, there was iRobot, which wasn't really iRobot, and Foundation, way after he was dead. And, you know, if these are the biggest names, and McCaffrey, right? Dragon Rider Supreme, where's the film of that?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. And why
so
not?
these are the biggest names in the field.
And Dune, look how long it took to make Dune.
These are the biggest names in the field, and negligible adaptations of their work.
Right.
In terms of the quantity. I mean, Asimov had, you know, dozens and dozens of novels. And, you know, Larry Niven's Ringworld has been under option for, it came out in 1970. It's been under option forever. And people keep talking about it, and it probably will never get made. Not because it's not great, it's great, but it just, that's the reality of it.
Well, then, that's a little key, though, that if you're going to option something, make sure you have a good Hollywood agent so that the contract is like for a year or 3 years or something like that. So I have no clue what Larry's contract was. But
as I understand it, Larry, the contract, he sold the rights once upon a time.
Right.
And they keep selling the rights to other people, and Larry is simply not in the loop anymore.
Well, I mean, Doug Beeson and I actually sold a thriller of ours called Ignition.
I totally remember that. I even know how much you sold it for, but I won't say. But I totally remember.
We sold it for enough for me to buy the land I built my house on. It was nice. And this was sort of like Die Hard at the Kennedy Space Center with terrorists taking over the space shuttle. And they didn't option it. They bought it. I mean, they just flat out, we bought it and we're going to make it. And they spent years with various scripts and treatments and stuff, and then the Challenger accident happened, so nobody wants to make a movie about terrorists threatening to blow up a space shuttle.
Right.
And now, of course, there was no space shuttle, so it will never, ever get made.
Yeah. Well, someone has the rights and paid a lot of money for it, so maybe there's an adaptation of the concept or whatever, where it's kind of like The Running Man that has nothing to do with the original novel. So just to wrap up, so we can kind of head back to the event and stuff like that. Any advice, for writers out there, your favorite advice that you like to share? Love to hear some of this.
I would say, write your stories. Write what you want to write. Don't start with market research. What's hot right now? What's hot today isn't going to be hot 2 years from now. When it's the fastest your first novel is going to come out from a traditional publisher. And science fiction, and fantasy to some degree, but particularly science fiction, is not a formulaic genre. It's about doing exciting new things. So when people, what should I write? If you're not got something burning in you that you want to write, you're probably not actually a writer, right? You're somebody who's like, how do I make it well? There are all kinds of ways to make a quick buck. I can recommend any number of them.
Rich and famous. Yeah, science fiction.
That's
writer.
right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's not the quick buck method.
Yeah.
Way more easier ways.
Well, and the other thing for me is I've got a dozen irons in the fire. I've got graphic novel projects and short stories and novels, and I'm a publisher, and I'm editing anthologies, and I'm teaching publishing at a university, and there's all this stuff. So I'm to somebody just looking to my mundane friends. These are the non-science fiction. They just go, Kevin, you're just working all the time, because they work 9 to 5 and they come home and they look forward to the weekends, and they, Kevin, why do you work all the time? Because I love everything I'm doing. But every one of these irons in the fire are irons that I want to have in the fire. It's not, okay, I have to do this because that one will pay the bills. And they do pay the bills. In fact, So right now it's April, so I realized this January, so a couple months ago, was my 40th anniversary of being a professional author. And this May, so next month, will be my 30th year of being a full-time writer, earning all of my income through writing.
Wow.
And it has never been a stable profession. It's you are constantly looking for work. I've had to evolve, I've crashed and burned and resurrected myself, and okay, I'm going to be a publisher now, I'm going to be an editor now, I'm going to do this stuff. But it's all part of the big umbrella of being a writer.
Yeah.
And I love it, and I can't understand what I would be doing if I wasn't writing. Like, I would take up watercolor painting with the same obsessiveness, but I wouldn't make any money at it. So,
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, always a pleasure to hang out with you guys, and thank you very much.
A pleasure, Mark. Live long and prosper.
wait, you sound just like Leonard Nimoy.
I do. Hey, Bob Wilson, I went off to your property.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.